how should one balance brand-generated video content versus user-generated video content?
It always depends on the brand and the objectives and all of that, because sometimes your brand is so stodgy that you just can't get past user-generated content. But I would say that in general, like let's say you're a new e-commerce brand, the most impactful videos you can have on social media are other people talking about.
Hey everyone, my name is Scott Branley and I'm here with my co-host DJ Sprague and our special guest Natalie Henley. Natalie, how are you doing today?
You know what? I am doing awesome. How are you, Scott?
So good.
Yeah, this is a real pleasure, Natalie. I've known Natalie for many years. We've spoken together at the Conversion Conference and very impressed with her knowledge, her presentation, her company, her deliverables. So we were really excited to have her on the podcast. It's just a little bit about Natalie, her full name, Natalie Henley. She's a widely acclaimed speaker, consultant, and owner of Volume 9, a digital marketing agency based in Denver, Colorado. Volume 9 focuses on growing brands organically through SEO and social media. They've been a growing business for almost 20 years and have worked with notable brands such as Dillard's, Backcountry, Dr. Scholl's, Land's End, Little Tikes, Tire Kingdom, and a lot more. They really have a great company, great product, great service, and we're really excited to learn more about Volume 9, what you guys do, your philosophy, your approach, etc.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me, guys.
Well,
absolutely.
So let's get right into it. So question one is, how did you get into this industry?
Yeah, so I went to college and I studied it. I got a PhD in digital marketing and social media. Just kidding. Obviously, that's not how that happened. So when I went to college, I was really lucky. I was like one of the first 20 universities to get onto Facebook. So I started, dabbling in social media back when I was college, getting used to it. So then when I started cutting my teeth in digital marketing was finally when social media, and at that time it was really Facebook and MySpace, were starting to open up to businesses and they were trying to figure out how the heck to use that as a channel. So I got back into it way back then. And it was almost like people are asking questions about Facebook. Who knows how to talk to them about it? So that's way back.
Yeah.
Probably how I got into it is just, it started happening and, people had questions. We just started working through and figuring it out. And that's, 20 years ago. But now it's kind of really adapted. And, I think as an agency, I think as we've really grown up and kind of figured out, gosh, who do we want to be as an agency? What do we want to be best in class at? And we really dialed in social media as one of our core services. And I think what really helped us to kind of decide to do that was understanding that there is intrinsically value in taking the time to understand who is our brand, why are we special, why are we different, who's our tribe, and how do we like to talk and communicate with them, and how do we foster communication with them, and thinking about how that manifests, on your website and your content and your social, and what we kind of call this kind of organic presence. And as an agency, that's what we've really decided that, not that there's anything wrong with all the other lovely ways you can drive traffic and get eyeballs online, but that it's hard work, but it's rewarding work to really sit there and go, gosh, how do we meaningfully get people to this brand, hearing about them, learning about them, coming to their website, and then taking an action?
That's a lot.
Fantastic.
It is. So that's how.
So moving on to e-commerce.
Yeah.
What is your social media strategy or recommended strategy for an e-commerce website?
Yeah. So I think there are so many industries where social media is valuable for brands, but e-commerce, I think, is acutely one of the most important. Do you think about in the e-commerce game that when you think about higher average order values, when you think about, why buy on our site, not buy on Amazon, like all these kind of different reasons of like compelling, why do we want to get people to this site and buying off this site? Social media has an extremely important part to play in brand awareness, brand growth, brand metrics. So I think when we think about social media for e-commerce brands, that's the first thing that we're thinking about is, gosh, do you have the trappings of a healthy, legitimate e-commerce brand? And are you doing a good job building the brand so that someone wants to be part of your tribe? They want to come buy your products. They're interested in signing up for your email list and kind of all those really valuable things that we know e-commerce brands like. And then once you're really building that awesome engaged community, then are you also taking advantage of some, more conversion oriented plays that you can do on social media, whether that's, oh, we're going to run an ad. Oh, we are going to have some more bottom of funnel content. We're going to do TikTok shop. And there's all these kind of great components to social media that you can layer in to help direct more sales and attribute more sales on a last click attribution model to social media. But I would say for e-commerce, like the main thing we're thinking about first and foremost is, do you have a great social media community that's engaged, that's growing? Because you're going to find that manifests in a lot of really positive things. One, it's going to drive more branded traffic, which we know is higher average order value and all those great things in e-commerce. It's going to inspire more people to do things like sign up for your email newsletter. It's going to have more people willing to kind of talk to your brand and comment on you to kind of show that social proof that you're a viable brand. People are saying great things about you. And then also too, as an e-commerce brand, you want to think that as you're thinking about partnerships and long-term, one of the big growth strategies that a lot of our e-commerce brands have is, okay, how do we get our products available in more places? So we're not just an e-commerce site, but we're more. We're in stores, we're sold on other e-commerce sites, we have affiliates, we have influencers, right? But when you start to think about those bigger partnerships, one of the major metrics that you'll see that they'll look for is your social media audience unique, engaged, and growing? Because what they're trying to do is when they're looking for partnerships, they're trying to get a partner who can bring a new audience to the table for them. So these all become really important building blocks for how you kind of can scale your e-commerce brand long term.
Okay.
Yeah, that's great advice.
As far as e-commerce goes, have you found a certain type of social media that works better than others?
Well, let's go with yes and no. In general, on e-commerce, so it kind of depends on who your audience is, right? So because we sell stuff online, so we're in an industry together, but it's like, what is the stuff you're selling? Can make a big difference about what kind of content or what's going to resonate the best with your audience. So we tend to find that it's a little more audience based on platforms and what works best in e-commerce. But in general, for e-commerce, the platforms that we've seen the most success with are Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and Pinterest. Those tend to be some combination of four. And then also YouTube, if you consider that social. Those tend to be the big ones. But that's, again, unless you're an e-commerce that services wholesale, and then LinkedIn might be good for you. Or maybe we had a really interesting one where it was a company that serviced new parents, and they were really trying to expand into new fathers because they were doing a really good job selling baby products to moms, but they wanted to get into fathers. And we realized that YouTube was our best strategy because most guys at 2 a.m. when they have a baby start YouTubing how to do stuff. So that ended up being a much better format for them than women and Instagram. So it really kind of depends more on your audience, but those tend to be the big ones. I would say in general, right now, the big behemoth across the board is Instagram.
Universally, yeah.
Yeah.
It just kind of has appeal across all the demographics and psychographics.
All right. Are there times when social media doesn't work for an e-commerce website?
Yes. Okay. So some situations. So let's say you're a Me Too brand, right? Like you're an affiliate t-shirt company. So you're drop shipping, you're pulling it up and you're using social media to just get awareness on these t-shirts out there. If you're not kind of spending the time to make a really interesting, unique brand, social media is challenging. Right. So if you're just sort of kind of wash and repeat and you just kind of have an e-commerce site, sell some shirts and move on with your life, no big deal. But if you're in kind of a situation where you're not trying to build the brand into something bigger and you're not trying to create a cool brand, you probably don't really need social media, or you're going to find that investment feels untenable to sort of take the time to build a brand when all you're trying to do is just drive traffic to your site to sell t-shirts. That's a big one that's off the top of my mind. And there's different situations and places where just depending on the brand, like a good example is if you're really an e-commerce site and you are selling like electrical junction boxes. Like we had a client do this. They sold electrical junction boxes and they basically were targeting electricians, and it was a great site, but it was just like, these electricians aren't really spending, like they're on like Reddit and stuff. Like there are places that they are. So you want to figure out where those guys are getting information. But they're not on Instagram, and there's no reason to like Instagram electrical junction boxes. Like it's probably not the best solution. Yeah. So it does really depend on what you mean by e-commerce and those types of things. But yeah, I would say if you're not trying to build a brand, or if your audience just really clearly isn't a social audience, there's just probably better channels to be investing in.
So that brings up the next question. When you're looking at a new e-commerce site and as a new client or prospect, what are the 3 most important things you look at first when assessing that site, that brand for a good fit, or what really needs help from your strategies perspective.
So, all right. So when we look at clients, like what we look at first and foremost when we're like, oh, we're on social media and what do we take a look at it for us? And how are we doing? I think the big things that we look at first are one, how do you look relative to similar size competitors, right? Okay. Hey, you know what I mean? You're brand new baby e-commerce site. Well, we're not going to compare you to backcountry, right? But like who's someone who's selling something sort of similar? And like, what is our kind of overall, if I was getting a pulse check, followers, kind of engagement levels, how often are they posting? Are we at least as good as some of our close competitors? So that's kind of the first thing is, are we there? And then the second thing that we look at is just kind of general, what I would call best practices for the social media platform. Do you, on Facebook, do you have a nice header image? Do you have any grammatical misspellings in your bio, which I can't tell you how often we see those, right? Do we link to the website? So you just look for are we verified? Just do all that stuff to go, boom. All right. Someone's just checking out this. Like, they're not going to think that we just outsource somebody in another country to set up a platform really quick. Like, this looks legitimate. And then finally, what we then start to do is we just start to assess their content. How often are you posting? As a brand new e-commerce site, are you trying to create stuff that isn't just buy now, buy now, buy now, buy now? Are people talking back? Are you getting likes? You know what I mean? Like, what is the content strategy feeling like? And then we start to assess if it's not working well, what could be better. Generally with e-commerce sites, I'd say the most common recommendations we give are one, more lifestyle content. So don't show me your mug on a white background. Show me your mug in a real scene. More real content in general. Let's get a micro influencer for $100 to just be holding the mug in a reel for us so that it looks like a real person is using our product in the wild. More engagement in general, like let's ask questions, let's have contests, let's do polls, let's try some stuff. And then almost all the time, we recommend to e-commerce clients to do some boosting. The tagline I like to say is, if it's worth posting on social media, it's worth putting a couple bucks behind. If you are not proud of it at all and you're like, well, we don't want anybody to see this, don't put it on your social media feed. It's better to do less content, like even just a couple posts a week, but make them good and put a few bucks behind boosting them, than it is doing it every day and not doing any of those things.
How much would you recommend like putting like amount financially behind to boost something?
$1 billion. That's, the kind of general rule of thumb is that it kind of depends on how aggressive you are and how difficult your audience is to get at and how hard it is going to be to get people talking about your product. But in general, if you can even put $5-10 behind a post, I think that can go a long way. But if you're, a big brand with aggressive goals and all that, you might do considerably more. But even like $5 a post does something.
That's something. Yeah. That's great advice. And I like your analogy there. If it's good enough to post, it's good enough to boost.
Yep.
And it really makes a lot of sense.
Don't post it, right? If it's not worth $5, it's not worth $20. Okay. Right. Then why are we posting it?
And that's just going to build your audience that much faster.
It is. When it's going to get you that data, that we were talking about at the beginning, that much faster as well.
Fantastic.
Okay.
Okay.
Let's change gears a little bit to AI. How do you see AI in social media?
It's funny. I mean, we'll just continue to see how AI grows, but like I'm from an outsider looking in on some stuff, and then also just being in the middle of AI and what's doing in like SEO and social media. I think that when OpenAI launched ChatGPT a little over a year ago now, for a little while, everyone was just all in like, oh my God, let's use AI for everything. Let's do it. Copy, graphic ideas and this and that. And then every social media tool on the planet, as you guys can imagine, like every other tool has just added AI in. So every single Sprout Social's got AI something. Hey, AI something. Any tool you can think of, they've added in AI components. And then as we started to kind of see how it played out, we realized that the AI stuff just doesn't always do as well as the more creative, not AI stuff. And so then we took a step back and went, okay, well, where can AI help and where is AI hindrance? And then keeping an eye on, well, where is AI getting better over time? So I think this is a obviously in a very evolving industry and conversation. So like even as I talk about it today and where I think it's at today, by the time this airs, it's probably changed. Probably some 4 more tools launched something cool that made all of this outdated. But I think where we're finding AI really helpful, especially with our clients, is one, a little bit in the social media strategy side of, okay, who are our audiences? What are stuff they're interested in? And a little bit on our social calendaring, not a ton. There's definitely context and creativity that great social media calendars need, that it just AI. I mean, what AI is doing is it's looking at a bunch of information of what everybody's already done and kind of what it can extrapolate next, but it doesn't really have brand new, unique, creative thoughts. So, and you'll find that in social media, you need a little bit of both. And so to get some of those ideas of like, okay, we just need some ideas for this brand, for this month. What do you think? Asking AI to give you a bunch of ideas in that creative process so you can distill it down and turn it into something really interesting can be really helpful in the creative process. We have found AI is really useful in writing copy. You do have to be careful to sort of put inputs in because what you don't want, especially for an e-commerce brand, is really boring sounding copy. You really want to think of who are we as a brand? What's our persona? How do we talk? And then you want to make sure your copy reflects that. So you really want to make sure you're getting the inputs correctly into AI to get that output, but it's really helpful for that. And then we keep testing it on graphics, and we're holding crossing our fingers that at some point it's going to be really useful for graphics and video. But so far it's been fun for graphics and video, but I wouldn't call it like ready for prime time on a social media calendar. But, anytime, Canva is one of our favorite tools. They've got a whole AI suite. We keep playing around with that stuff. Like our fingers are crossed that at some point here, and we're paying attention to like what the video tools are doing. And it's neat. It's something, but it's not quite ready for like brand videos. That's where we're at right now. But I mean, I think where this is going to evolve is more and more tools are going to try and find more and more ways to get social media content through AI. And I think anywhere we can pick up those, where we can pick that capability up and that time savings, it's great because we can roll it to our clients by either doing more or charging less. The trick is that it still has to be high quality. So up until the point that AI creates content that isn't high quality, it's sort of more of a test zone for us than it's ready to go to clients. But we're keeping an eye on it and hopeful that at some point it gets to a point here where it's like, yes, we can just put inputs in and we're going to get all this great graphics out. But so far, we're not quite there.
This will give you a starting point, right? Something to work from. And it's like, oh yeah, that's directionally good. Now let's give that to our graphic artists and have them perfect that and enhance that and make it market ready. Yeah.
We'll call it AI assisted social media.
AI assisted. Yes. AI assisted.
You've been in this industry for a long time. How do you measure the success of a social media campaign?
I think first and foremost, we always measure the success by what our clients know that they need to measure success by. So some clients come to us and they're a little bit bigger. They have bigger social media teams. They've broken down their social media metrics. They see the value in things like let's increase engagement without it needing to go all the way to the bottom line revenue because they know that they need that. So in those, we always think about, okay, what are the top client KPIs that, like, why are they coming to an agency? What's their pain? So that always becomes like the biggest thing, our kind of keys. But in general, for e-commerce sites, we'll find that there's kind of two sets of metrics. One set is the more revenue oriented set and one set's the brand oriented set. You kind of want to keep track of both, and you kind of have to be okay that sometimes the brand stuff doesn't have a direct path to the revenue stuff. So for branding, you might look at things. It's going to be a lot of those metrics that come right out of the tools themselves, or that you can get in tools like Sprout Social, which is one of my favorite tools for if you're trying to do social media measurement without paying a gobload of money. Sprout gives you a lot of data for not that much money per month comparatively. But things like reach, engagement, impressions, those types of things. Also really love to see metrics like in Search Console. Are more people searching the brand every month? Just kind of, okay, what kinds of metrics can you get at to demonstrate that we've got a healthy brand? That's also where follower growth goes. So, you have these branding and some agencies will call those vanity metrics. I don't think that that's true. I don't think it's just a vanity metric because we've seen how impactful those types of metrics can be for the brand, but you have to understand they're more of a brand metric than a revenue driving last click attribution. This is a big part of how we do measurement. Is we have so much more measurement today than we've ever had in terms of digital and attribution and marketing, but it's still not perfect. We still can't make a perfect correlation between, wow, someone heard my radio spot and then they Googled the brand name and they came to my pet site. We can make some assumptions like that, but there's just not a perfect line between all the different touch points we know that a customer is going to have and finally making a product and buying your product. So we kind of have to live in a world where we know branding is valuable, but we might not see that in the last click attribution report. But then in a last click attribution report, you absolutely can start dialing in things like, okay, is social media driving traffic to the site? Is it contributing to a conversion path? Are we getting emails out of it? And some of the things that you can do to sort of see those social media assists, or if social media is driving revenue. So you can also track those types of things. So generally for e-commerce clients, we track all of that, but then we bubble up the things that we know that the e-commerce brand cares the most about. Because generally brands will come to us and they'll go, we care about revenue and nothing else. Or they'll go, no, we're a little more sophisticated. We care about engagement, nothing else. Or our board just wants to kick the shit out of that e-commerce brand, so we need more followers than them. So there tends to be a couple of things as sort of the guiding metric. based on where that client sees value.
Those are great points. I'm glad you mentioned, the vanity metrics and impressions, because obviously the research shows that if you don't get the top line impressions and visibility, then the bottom line always suffers. And you can't throw out the top line and expect the bottom line to get better. It works inversely. When you get more top line, you get more bottom line, because that's how the funnel works. That's what we call it, the funnel, right? So yeah, glad you brought that up. Okay, so for our traditional $1 million question, Natalie.
Yep.
This is the biggie. What's the one thing you would recommend right now to an e-commerce brand that would make the biggest impact on their business regarding social media?
Invest in video, especially vertical video. But just if you as an e-commerce brand aren't thinking about how do we get our products on video, our videos of them in the wild, videos of people talking about our products, this is a great time. And it's going to, my assessment is over the next 4 to 5 years, we're going to see that manifest across every channel. We know that, for example, the younger generations prefer to search on TikTok than they do Google. And Google has a pretty stacked track record of not allowing other platforms to pull market share for long. So if they're seeing a shift in consumer trends where younger consumers are preferring video content for searches, you can bet they're going to adapt to that. We're seeing Instagram Reels just across the board as a format perform better than any other type of content on any social media platform. And so like if you're kind of seeing where the consumers are going, that's going to start to need to bleed into the rest of your marketing. And I think we're going to feel and see the big channels start to adapt to that more and more, whether it's more visibility of videos in their feeds, more, easier ways to search and see videos in Google search. Like I think that this is going to continue to be a trend that we see. So if you haven't spent a lot of time figuring out how to do video, now's the time. And I realize like that's not an easy tactic, but it sure is an impactful one.
So if you had to say, how should one balance brand generated video content versus user generated video content? Is there a formula? Does it depend on the brand, the objective? How do you consult on that?
That's what I was going to ask.
So, I mean, obviously it depends. It always depends on the brand or the objectives and all of that, because sometimes your brand is so stodgy that you just can't get past user generated content. But I would say that in general, like let's say you're a new e-commerce brand, the most impactful videos you can have on social media are other people talking about your product. That's what users are going to trust more. It's really aligned with, even as you guys call it so much about third-party reviews and endorsements, the power of me going, wow, I love this Matchbox. I use these matches all the time. How much more impactful that is than for this brand to go, we sell matches. You can just imagine in social media how much more impactful, and for your marketing, how much more impactful that is. Generally it's just a matter of what can you get done. Sometimes it might be easy for your organization to start throwing, a few $100 at influencers to start creating content for your brand. That might actually be easier than, we got to find a studio and we got to find a videographer and we got to get our art director involved. So I think part of it is kind of that easy path. But in general, I would be thinking about just as much video as you can in general. And then the more user generated content you can live with, the better. But absolutely, like your YouTube channel is going to be a perfect place for brand content. Your website's going to be a perfect place for your branded content and about where those things go. So it just kind of depends on what you're the most excited about that'll convince you to do video. If you're really excited because it's going to increase your Instagram engagement rates, then do UGC. If you're excited because you want more people to follow your YouTube channel, then do branded videos. If you just want more people to that site buying stuff, get some great product videos on your product detail pages. There's almost nowhere that you're going to be able to put a video that you're not going to see impact from it.
Love
Fantastic. That. Great summary. Emphatic, exciting. Well, we really appreciate the conversation, the ideas, the strategies, the background that you brought to the table, Natalie. And thanks for taking time out of your very busy schedule.
Oh my goodness,
you have a hectic week.
Oh my gosh. Sorry. I didn't mean to feel bad about that.
I read your LinkedIn post. What can I say? I know how busy you are.
I love it. It's so great.
Thanks again.